Imagine waking up one day with no memory, no identity, and no idea where you are. You wander around confused, searching for meaning. Sadly, this is how millions of people live, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've never discovered why they were created. They chase money, fame, and pleasure, only to feel empty at the end of every achievement. But let me ask you, if your phone, your clothes, your car, your home, everything in your life was made with a purpose, how can you believe that you, the most complex creation, came into existence by accident? If you walk away today without understanding the purpose of your life, you'll continue living but never truly feel alive. But if you stay till the end, you may discover clarity that transforms your thinking, your choices, and even your future. So listen closely, not because I am speaking, but because your Creator is calling you through these words. My brothers and sisters, Allah reminds us in the Quran, did you think we created you without purpose and that you would not be returned to us? So for these words are not a question, they are a wake-up call. We were not created by accident. Your existence is not randomness. Before your mother even knew you, Allah had already written your name, your purpose, your tests, and your potential. One, you are a design creation. Every fingerprint, every heartbeat, every breath is a sign that you were crafted perfectly. When someone says, I don't know why I'm here, the problem is not the absence of purpose, it's the absence of awareness. Allah did not create you to wander in confusion. He created you to know Him, worship Him, and walk a path that leads to eternal success. 2. This world is a test. You're not a destination. We spend years planning careers, weddings, houses, and investments. But how much time do we spend preparing for the meeting with the one who gave us everything? Allah tells us, He is the one who created death and life to test you, to see who is best in deeds. A 6-7 tune to life isn't meaningless. It is an exam. Some questions are easy, others painful. But every answer shapes your hereafter. 3. Worship is a way of life. Our purpose is not limited to salah and fasting. Worship includes patience with family, speaking kindly, earning halal, removing harm from the road, smiling at a stranger, and forgiving someone when you have the power to punish. Every good action is an act of worship when done for Allah. Hardships do not cancel your purpose. When people suffer, they ask, why me? But the better question is, what is Allah teaching me through this? Prophets faced the hardest trials, not because Allah abandoned them, but because He chose them for greatness. Your pain is not pointless, your tears are not wasted. Every moment of struggle is shaping your soul for a higher level. 5. Clarity brings power. People without purpose fall into depression, addiction, comparison, and self-doubt. But when you understand why you exist, you stop chasing distractions and start living with intention. You stop fearing people and start trusting Allah. You stop asking, what's the point of life? And start asking, how can I fulfill my mission? 6. The end is the beginning. One day, you will leave everything behind. Your house, your bank account, your followers, and your title. But your deeds will follow you into the grave. And on the day of judgment, Allah will ask not how long you lived, but how you lived. So do not live accidentally. Live purposefully, consciously, and beautifully for the one who created you with wisdom. Keynote 1 focuses on the fact that human existence is not random, accidental, or meaningless. Every soul is created with intention, and nothing about our being is without design. When a person reflects deeply, they recognize that every part of their existence, physical, emotional, spiritual, is formed with precision. The bones in the body are shaped to support. The heart beats with remarkable regulation. The brain stores memories and enables reflection. The eyes interpret light, and the skin protects. None of this arises by chance. If a watch, a building, or a painting cannot come into existence without a designer, how can the extraordinary complexity of a human being be considered a result of random coincidence? The Quran constantly directs attention to signs within oneself, the alternation of night and day, the balance in the skies, the diversity in languages and colors, the way the heart grieves and hopes. These are reminders that a creator has crafted every element with wisdom. When someone thinks they are a mistake or a random product of biology, they strip themselves of purpose. The idea that life is accidental leads to despair, confusion, and emptiness. If one believes they are nothing more than a chemical reaction, how can they carry the weight of responsibility, morality, or accountability? But when a person recognizes that Allah shaped them, chose their time of birth, their environment, their strengths, and their tests, they gain clarity about their role in the world. They stop questioning their existence and start questioning how they can fulfill its purpose. Understanding divine intention reshapes self-worth. Many people suffer from feelings of insignificance because they compare themselves to others or view their existence through society's lens of success and failure. But divine purpose is not measured by wealth, fame, or worldly recognition. It is measured by sincerity, effort, and obedience. A person who quietly cares for a parent with love, speaks truth even when unnoticed, or protects others from harm may be fulfilling their purpose more meaningfully than someone with worldly status. Knowing you were created by Allah eliminates the need to seek validation from people. It places dignity in the heart and resolve in the soul. You come to understand that you were known before you were born, planned before you were formed, and written into existence with honor. Another element of this keynote is that if your creation is not accidental, your journey is not accidental either. The family you were born into, the challenges you face, the talents you carry, and the moments of joy and pain are all part of a purposeful script. Nothing you encounter is outside of Allah's knowledge. Even your mistakes can become pathways to growth if you return to Him. Some people assume that divine purpose means perfection, but that is not true. It means awareness, effort, humility, and direction. It means understanding that you were crafted with a heart capable of belief, a mind capable of reflection, and limbs capable of action. The test of life is not whether you fall, but whether you rise with faith. When a person acknowledges that they were created intentionally, their outlook on relationships, ambitions, and time changes. They no longer wake up aimlessly or drift without values. They begin to ask, why was I given intelligence? Why was I blessed with health? Why was I placed in this family, this city, this era? These questions do not create anxiety, they create depth. They inspire gratitude and productivity. They drive a person to live meaningfully instead of mechanically. Connection to divine purpose also affects how a person faces trials. If life were an accident, pain would be cruel and pointless. But when you know that Allah, who created you purposefully, allows each moment for a reason, you gain resilience. Hardship becomes a means of purification. Loss becomes a doorway to patience. Delay becomes preparation. Struggle becomes elevation. You realize you were not created haphazardly and you are not being tested arbitrarily. Everything is written with wisdom, whether or not you see it in the moment. Acknowledging that existence is intentional also answers a fundamental internal question many people carry silently. Do I matter? The answer is yes, because Allah does not create anything in vain. If He willed you into being, then your presence in this world fills a space no one else could. Your purpose is not identical to others, and your path is not meant to be a copy of theirs. Comparing your journey to someone else's only blinds you to your own role. Realizing that your creation is deliberate makes you responsible, but it also makes you hopeful. It invites you to explore who you are meant to be, not who the world tells you to become. Divine creation also implies that guidance is provided. Allah does not create a soul and abandon it. He revealed scripture, sent prophets, and placed signs in the universe and within the self. He embedded a conscience in the heart and the ability to distinguish between truth and falsehood. If you were a random product of chaos, there would be no revelation, no accountability, no moral compass. But because you were created intentionally, you are guided intentionally, you are invited to worship, to reflect, to improve, and to earn eternal reward. This keynote ultimately emphasizes dignity, direction, and divine connection. When someone accepts that they were not created by accident, they step out of confusion and step into purpose. They no longer live as spectators, but as participants in their own destiny. Their actions gain meaning, their choices carry weight, and their existence becomes a bridge between this world and the next. They begin to live consciously, love sincerely, strive consistently, and return to their Creator with understanding rather than regret. Accountability and responsibility arise naturally when a person understands that their existence is purposeful and not accidental. The moment someone realizes they were created by Allah with intention, they also realize that their actions, words, and choices matter. Life is no longer a casual journey with no consequences, but a series of decisions that determine not only their worldly experience, but their eternal outcome. When a person believes there is no accountability, they may feel free to live however they wish, driven by desire, impulse, or social influence. But when they are conscious that every breath and every blessing is a trust from Allah, they begin to evaluate how they use their time, how they treat others, and how they respond to guidance. Accountability does not mean fear alone, it means awareness. Allah has given intellect, health, wealth, companionship, and moments of ease, and with each comes responsibility. If someone is blessed with knowledge, they are responsible for using it to benefit themselves and others. If someone is granted wealth, it becomes a tool for generosity and support. Even the tongue is a trust. How it speaks, what it says, and the harm or healing it creates are all recorded. The Prophet Muhammad said that a servant's feet will not move on the day of judgment until they are asked about their life and how they spent it, their youth and how they used it, their wealth and how they earned and spent it, and their knowledge and how they acted upon it. This hadith alone is enough to awaken a sense of responsibility in the heart. Understanding accountability changes how a person navigates daily life. They no longer view time as something to waste, but as a treasure to invest. They avoid actions that displease Allah not because they fear worldly consequences, but because they know their deeds are seen by the one who never forgets. They begin to see relationships as trusts, whether it is caring for parents, raising children, supporting a spouse, or dealing honestly in business. Even solitude becomes meaningful because the person knows that Allah sees them when no one else does. This kind of awareness creates integrity and sincerity. Responsibility also affects how a person responds to their own mistakes. Instead of ignoring them or justifying them, they recognize that they will be questioned and therefore seek forgiveness and improvement. Allah does not expect perfection, but He does expect accountability. A believer acknowledges their shortcomings, repents, and strives to do better. The act of repentance itself is a form of responsibility because it reflects the realization that one is answerable to their Creator. This awareness extends to how one treats other people. When someone believes they will stand before Allah and answer for every injustice, they become careful about their words and actions. They avoid backbiting, lying, cheating, mockery, and breaking trusts. They understand that rights belong not only to Allah but also to His creation. A prayerful person who harms others through arrogance or dishonesty forgets that they will be questioned about their treatment of people, not just their rituals. Accountability teaches humility, empathy, and fairness. Another aspect of accountability is recognizing the consequences of ignorance and heedlessness. Many people live without reflection, distracted by entertainment, comfort, or societal expectations. But every moment spent in negligence is a moment that could have been used to earn closeness to Allah. Responsibility means being conscious of how one thinks, what one consumes, how one behaves, and who one influences. Even silence in the face of wrongdoing can be questioned. If one had the ability to speak or act, every opportunity is either a witness for a person or against them. Accountability also brings hope because it assures a person that nothing good they do is lost. A smile, a sincere intention, a quiet prayer, and an act of secret charity. These may be forgotten by people but are preserved with Allah. Responsibility ensures that a person seeks reward not from the world, but from the one who sees the unseen. This transforms even ordinary moments into acts of worship. Belief in accountability changes one's relationship with tests and trials too. A hardship is not meaningless when one knows it is part of a divine plan. Patience becomes a responsibility, trust becomes a responsibility, and perseverance becomes a responsibility. Complaining, despairing, or abandoning faith in such moments is a betrayal of that trust. The believer understands that how they respond to trials will be part of their record, and that endurance with faith can elevate them in ways comfort never could. When a person internalizes responsibility, they also become more protective of their heart and mind. They avoid corrupt influences because they know they will answer for what they allowed into their soul. They become mindful of their company, their media consumption, and their ambitions. They weigh desires against consequences and intentions against outcomes. Ultimately, accountability and responsibility free a person from chaos and confusion. Instead of living impulsively or carelessly, they live with direction and balance. They do not need constant reminders from people because the awareness of Allah is enough to guide their conduct. They recognize that the life they have is temporary, but the record they build is permanent. They walk through the world carrying the knowledge that nothing they do disappears and that every step either prepares them for mercy or exposes them to regret. This understanding is not meant to paralyze but to empower, because the one who is aware of their responsibility is the one who has the chance to earn eternal success. Worship in Islam is often misunderstood as a set of isolated rituals limited to prayer, fasting, or recitation. But when one understands that life itself is purposeful, worship becomes a way of living rather than a checklist of religious acts. The purpose of creation, as mentioned in the Quran, "I did not create jinn and humans except to worship me," does not confine worship to the prayer mat. Instead, it broadens it to every intention, word and deed done for the sake of Allah. A person who lives with this awareness no longer divides their life into religious and worldly segments. Every action becomes an opportunity to fulfill purpose. Salah is central, fasting is essential, zakah is purifying, and hajj is transformative. But the spirit of worship extends beyond these. Worship includes how one speaks to others, how they earn their income, how they treat parents, how they fulfill promises, and how they respond to difficulties. A person who smiles with sincerity, helps a neighbor, assists the elderly, or removes harm from the road is engaging in worship if the intention is pure. Even resting with the intention of regaining strength to serve Allah becomes worship. The Prophet Muhammad taught that planting a tree, feeding a hungry soul, or treating a spouse with kindness are all acts that can earn divine reward. This understanding frees the believer from attaching significance only to rituals while neglecting character and conduct. When worship is seen as a lifestyle, the heart remains connected to Allah in every setting. A student studying with the intention to seek beneficial knowledge is worshipping. A worker earning lawful income to support their family is worshipping. A mother nurturing her child with patience is worshipping. A businessman who avoids dishonesty and interest is worshipping. Even silence can be worship when it prevents harm, and speaking can be worship when it promotes truth. The believer carries consciousness in every task, understanding that intention elevates the ordinary into something sacred. This perspective also addresses the imbalance many people feel. Some individuals perform rituals but display arrogance, dishonesty, or cruelty. Others have good character but avoid prayers and obligations. True worship brings both together, devotion in belief and excellence in behavior. The Prophet said that the best of people are those who are best in character. He also said that faith is made up of over 70 branches, including modesty, truthfulness, and removing harm from the path. These teachings prove that worship is not an isolated gesture, but a comprehensive approach to living. Living worshipfully also strengthens one's relationship with Allah through gratitude. When someone eats and thanks Allah, they are worshipping. When they see beauty and remember the Creator, they are worshipping. When they experience hardship and show patience, they are worshipping. Gratitude and patience are deeply spiritual acts that transform how one views both ease and trials. Worship is not only in what the body performs, but in what the heart believes and the mind reflects upon. Another dimension of worship is engaging with people in a way that reflects the values Allah loves. The Prophet said that the most beloved people to Allah are those who are most beneficial to others. Serving humanity, feeding the poor, visiting the sick, supporting the oppressed, freeing the indebted is all worship. Islam does not promote isolation from society but encourages believers to contribute positively while maintaining spiritual integrity. A person who uplifts others, resolves conflict, and spreads goodness embodies worship in motion. Even the avoidance of sin is a form of worship. When someone refrains from gossip, lowering their gaze, forgiving someone who wronged them, or holding back anger, they are worshipping through restraint. The unseen battles of the heart are often greater than the visible actions. Allah rewards both the deeds done and the desires resisted. The believer who lives with awareness sees temptation not as entertainment but as a test. The strength to walk away becomes a form of devotion. Worship as a way of life also means consistency. It is not confined to Ramadan or moments of crisis. The one who remembers Allah in times of ease is supported in times of hardship. Simple daily actions like saying Bismillah, giving salam, making dua, or seeking forgiveness keep the heart alive. A life of worship does not tire the soul, it nourishes it. Worship is not meant to burden but to uplift, guide and cleanse. When someone reduces worship to rituals alone, they may perform actions mechanically without transformation. But when worship is understood as a purpose that flows through every part of existence, it refines character, directs intention, and strengthens faith. A person becomes gentle with the weak, just with the strong, humble with the poor, and grateful with the blessed. They stop living for applause and start living for acceptance from the one who created them. Ultimately, worship as a way of life reminds a person that every breath is an opportunity to draw closer to Allah. It replaces emptiness with meaning, anxiety with trust, and distraction with direction. It connects the heart to the Creator in the market, the home, the school, the mosque, and the graveyard. It turns every day into a chance to fulfill the purpose of existence, not partially but completely. Life on earth is temporary, yet many people live as if it were permanent. When someone recognizes that this world is not the final destination but a passage to the hereafter, their perspective on everything changes. They stop measuring success by how much they accumulate or how much attention they receive, and instead begin to measure life by how well they prepare for what comes after death. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that this worldly life is play and distraction, while the hereafter is the true and lasting home. Understanding this does not mean abandoning responsibilities or isolating oneself. It means living with awareness that every moment here is leading to an eternal outcome. When a person believes that life ends with death, they become attached to temporary pleasures and worldly achievements. They chase status, money, appearances, and possessions as if these define their worth. But the one who knows that this life is limited sees these things as tools, not goals. Wealth becomes a means of charity, not a symbol of superiority. Time becomes a resource to invest, not something to waste. Health becomes a blessing to use, not something to take for granted. They realize that every blessing is either a test of gratitude or a test of patience, and both are connected to their eternal result. The awareness of a final destination also helps a person cope with loss, failure, and injustice. When they see people committing oppression or living in pride, they do not believe that such behavior will go unchecked. They know that a day will come when every soul will stand before Allah and be questioned. No injustice will be forgotten, no tear will be ignored, no sacrifice will be wasted. Those who suffered without seeing relief in this world will find justice in the next. Those who got away with wrongdoing temporarily will not escape accountability eternally. This belief removes despair and bitterness because it anchors the heart in divine justice. Understanding that this life is temporary also reduces attachment to material things. The house, the car, the career, the reputation, all of it will eventually disappear or be left behind. A person who understands this truth starts asking different questions. What am I sending ahead? What deeds will follow me to the grave? What legacy am I building that benefits me when I can no longer act? These questions produce clarity and sobriety. They encourage humility in success and patience in hardship. Belief in the hereafter also gives strength during trials. When someone loses a loved one, faces illness, or experiences hardship, the pain can feel unbearable if they think life ends here. But when they know that souls will reunite in a place with no sorrow, no fear, no pain, and no separation, their hearts find comfort. They understand that the difficulty of this world is not permanent, and that the patience they show now will be rewarded in ways they cannot imagine. The Prophet Muhammad has said that the one who endured patiently in this life will dip into paradise just once on the day of judgment and will forget every hardship they ever faced. The temporary nature of this world also encourages modesty and kindness. When someone realizes that pride, arrogance, and rivalry hold no value at the moment of death, they choose humility over competition. They stop seeking validation from people whose opinions will not matter. When their soul is taken, they focus on pleasing Allah rather than impressing society. They forgive more easily, overlook mistakes, and focus on improvement rather than comparison. Seeing life as a test also allows a person to organize their priorities. They allocate time to worship, service, family, learning, and reflection because they know that distractions can consume years without benefit. They are not careless with their words because every word is recorded. They are not reckless with their actions because every deed has consequences. They become intentional in their relationships, their speech, their spending, and their choices. Another important element of understanding the temporary nature of life is embracing balance. Islam does not teach abandoning the world, but using it wisely. A believer can work, marry, travel, study, and enjoy lawful pleasures, but they do so with awareness. They know that their heart belongs to Allah, not to possessions. They know that gratitude for blessings is shown by using them in obedience, not indulgence. They understand that their purpose is not cancelled by worldly involvement, but guided by it. The remembrance of death is not morbid, it is grounding. It is a reminder that time is short and opportunities are limited. It awakens the soul to the urgency of repentance, charity, and good deeds before the chance is gone. It prevents arrogance during success and hopelessness during failure. It gives meaning to sacrifice and direction to ambition. Ultimately, when a person understands that this life is a temporary stop and the hereafter is the final destination, they live differently. They love without attachment, give without fear, strive without arrogance, and worship without boredom. They find peace not in what they hold, but in what they send forward. Their eyes remain on the path, but their heart is anchored in the home that waits beyond it. Trials are an inevitable part of life, but when someone understands that they were not created by accident, they also understand that their hardships are not random or meaningless. Every difficulty, loss, disappointment, and moment of pain carries a purpose within it. Allah does not burden a soul without wisdom, nor does He allow a moment of struggle to pass without reward. Trials are not signs of rejection, they are often signs of elevation. They refine a person's heart, expose their weaknesses, strengthen their patience, and bring them closer to their Creator. When people think life is accidental, hardship can feel like cruelty or injustice. They ask, why me? Or assume they are being punished unfairly. But those who recognize divine wisdom behind trials see them differently. They understand that Allah tested every beloved servant, including the prophets who were the most honored of all creation. Prophet Ayyub endured illness, poverty, and isolation. Prophet Yusuf faced betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Prophet Muhammad lost children, faced enemies, and lived through extreme hardship. Yet these trials were not signs of Allah's displeasure. They were part of His divine plan to purify, elevate, and strengthen those He chose. Hardship reminds a person of their dependence on Allah. In ease, the heart may become distracted, proud, or distant. But when a test arrives, it humbles the soul and turns it back toward the source of comfort. Tears become dua, pain becomes remembrance, and silence becomes reflection. People often find their deepest connection to Allah in moments of weakness, not strength. A trial can awaken a heart that was sleeping and remind it of its purpose. It can lead someone away from sin or bring them back from heedlessness. Trials also expose character. Anyone can appear patient when things are going well, but true patience is revealed when one is tested. Anyone can speak about trust in Allah, but real tawakkul is shown when circumstances are out of one's control. When difficulty strikes, it separates those who only claimed faith from those who live it. A believer does not deny their pain, but they refuse to lose hope. They may cry, but they do not complain against Allah. They may feel hurt, but they do not surrender to despair. Another wisdom behind trials is purification. Every human commits sins knowingly and unknowingly. Hardship can erase sins and raise a person's rank without them performing a single additional deed. A moment of illness, a loss of wealth, a betrayal, a delay in a plan, all of these can lighten the burden a person would otherwise carry into the hereafter. The Prophet I said that if Allah loves someone, He tests them, and that no fatigue, illness, worry, grief, harm, or sadness affects a believer without Allah erasing some of their sins because of it. Trials also teach perspective. When life is comfortable, people may attach themselves too deeply to this world. They begin to think they control outcomes, or that blessings belong to them, rather than being on loan from Allah. A test breaks that illusion and reminds them of reality. It teaches gratitude for what remains and patience for what is lost. It trains the heart to rely not on possessions or people, but on the one who gives and takes with wisdom. A test can also be a form of redirection. Sometimes a plan fails or a door closes not because Allah is depriving someone, but because He is protecting them from a path that would harm their faith or future. A disappointment can stop someone from arrogance, greed, or spiritual ruin. What appears as loss may be protection in disguise. Many people later look back and thank Allah for tests they once hated, because those trials shaped them into better versions of themselves. Another layer of wisdom is that trials build empathy. A person who has suffered understands the pain of others and becomes softer, kinder, and more compassionate. They are no longer quick to judge because they have felt weakness. They no longer ignore the suffering of others because they have tasted it. Hardship turns some people bitter, but those who see its purpose emerge with humility and concern for others. Trials also test the level of faith. The Quran states clearly that people will not be left to say, "We believe," without being tested. Faith is not proven in comfort, but in difficulty. When someone holds on to trust even when they do not understand the wisdom, their heart becomes stronger. The test becomes a bridge to higher status, deeper faith, and closer connection to Allah. Ultimately, Trials remind a person that this world is not paradise. If life were meant to be perfect here, there would be no need for the next life. Trials remind the soul that ease is temporary, pain is temporary, and the real reward is ahead. Those who endure with patience and reliance will not regret a single moment when they see the reward waiting for them. Hardships do not cancel one's purpose. They fulfill it by shaping the soul for what lies beyond this world. Living with intention and direction is one of the greatest outcomes of understanding that human existence is purposeful. When someone recognizes that they were created by Allah with wisdom, they stop drifting through life without clarity. They no longer live on autopilot or follow the crowd blindly. Instead, they begin to examine their actions, goals, and daily habits through the lens of purpose. Confusion fades when a person knows who created them, why they exist, and where they are headed. This clarity produces strength, motivation, and resilience that cannot be found in wealth, fame, or status. A person without purpose may wake up each day unsure of what they are trying to achieve. They may fill their time with distractions, entertainment trends, or comparisons. They may chase things that bring temporary excitement but long-term emptiness. But the one who understands their purpose wakes with intention. They do not measure their life by how much they own, but by how much they grow in faith, character, and contribution. Even simple actions like offering a smile, earning halal income, visiting a relative, or learning something beneficial become valuable because they are done with intention. Living with direction also means being conscious of time. Every hour is either an investment or a loss. Time cannot be bought back, extended, or paused. When a person realizes they will be questioned about how they spend their days, they begin to prioritize what matters. They reduce habits that steal time, like endless scrolling, unnecessary arguments, or mindless entertainment. They start filling their days with activities that strengthen their heart, benefit others, and improve their hereafter. They understand that even rest, leisure, and family time can be acts of worship if done with the right intention. Another part of living with intention is self-awareness. Many people copy the lifestyles, dreams, and definitions of success that society promotes. They measure themselves by the achievements of others rather than the path Allah has written for them. But when someone lives with purpose, they stop comparing and start reflecting. They ask themselves, what are my strengths? What opportunities has Allah given me? What role can I fulfill that others cannot? They understand that everyone has a unique journey and that true failure is not falling behind others, but falling behind their own potential. With intention comes discipline. A purposeful person does not give in to every desire or impulse because they understand the cost of distraction. They monitor what they consume with their eyes, ears, and heart. They seek environments and companions that increase their faith and avoid those that weaken it. They become selective with their words, knowing that every sentence can either elevate or harm them. They do not wait for motivation to act. They create consistency through intention. Direction in life also alleviates anxiety and hopelessness. Many people feel lost because they do not know where they are headed or why they are alive. They fear the future because they see no meaning in the present. But when a person aligns their life with divine purpose, they stop fearing the unknown. They trust that whatever happens, success or failure, ease or difficulty, is part of a journey toward Allah. They do their best and leave the outcome to the one who controls everything. This creates inner peace that no worldly achievement can provide. Living with intention transforms relationships too. A person begins to treat others not based on emotion alone, but based on values like justice, kindness, respect, and accountability. They seek the pleasure of Allah in how they speak, forgive, support, and set boundaries. They stop trying to impress people and start trying to please their Creator. This shift protects them from heartbreak, manipulation, and guilt because their actions are rooted in something greater than human approval. When someone lives without intention, they may feel overwhelmed by their past or uncertain about their future. But intention offers direction even when circumstances change. A believer may lose a job, face illness, relocate, or deal with betrayal, but their purpose does not disappear. They adapt with trust rather than panic. They seek lessons within setbacks and opportunities within challenges. They know that as long as they are alive, they still have a role to fulfill. Intention also turns ordinary deeds into acts of worship. Eating becomes worship when done with gratitude. Studying becomes worship when pursued to benefit others. Working becomes worship when done ethically. Even silence can be worship when it prevents harm. Without intention, these actions are just routines. With intention, they become investments for the hereafter. Direction does not mean having every detail of life planned. It means knowing your ultimate goal and aligning your steps with it. The Prophet Muhammad taught that the most beloved actions to Allah are those done consistently, even if small. This teaches that a meaningful life is not built overnight, but through daily intention and effort. Over time, the one who lives with purpose becomes more focused, more content, and more resilient. Ultimately, living with intention and direction gives life meaning beyond survival. It lifts a person out of emptiness and into awareness. It helps them walk through the world with dignity, clarity, and faith. It makes every breath count and every moment sacred. It replaces confusion with conviction and replaces restlessness with resolve. And when their time on earth ends, they return to Allah not as wanderers, but as souls who lived with purpose and direction.